That's fine.
It's all being recorded, so you don't really have to take any minutes.
Okay, that's even better.
Yeah. So on record.
Ready to go? Ready to go?
Yep.
It's 6:59, so called 7 o'clock, called meeting to order. Everyone, this is a public meeting for the Gate Street Recreational Potential Complex. This is Kevin Grindle from Barton and Lagrange. Assuming you're gonna kind of take over. Is that
Yep.
okay? All right, Kevin, thank you.
Give me the heads up and I'm good to go.
All right,
Thank you for that. By introduction, Kevin Grinder with Barton Judas. With me as well is Nicole Cleary, on the big screen next to me. She's a colleague of mine. We're both landscape architects with the company. And I've been working with the town now over the past couple months.
should I give him a little bit of history first? Is that
And I was gonna say, we can give a kind of elevator pitch of what we're doing, but if you can give a brief bio of how we got to this point and engage P&L.
I can do that. So basically, Tracy in her good graces spearheaded an idea. What was it, about 8 months ago, maybe 7 months ago? There we go. And basically what it consists of are upgrades to our open space presently here.
Hot seat.
So, okay. So, in that being said, we basically held a open, interview session with, reached out to some local landscape architects, to give us some prices for
The bids.
the
We're out to
bids
bid.
going out to bid. And they were, Barton and Lagrange was selected based on their, basically their whole portfolio and what their services were. This is like a preliminary, this song is killing me, I'm sorry. It's preliminary stages to the potential for a pretty decent sized project. We're interested in going after some grant money, which in turn, we need to have a master plan, which is what Kevin and his firm is going to help us put together as a master plan, so we can actually solicit grant money to further upgrade and make improvements to our lovely space that we have here and make it appropriate for town-wise, not just individuals, but not just sports, but everybody from. We have members from the senior community. We have members from the library. We have members from the town. We have members from the locals, the neighbors. I'm sorry, what was that again?
No, I'm saying you pointed at me.
Oh, no, I'm just talking with my hands. I do apologize for that. So that being said, you've all seen on the town website, basically what is a conceptual design. It's not anything permanent. The basis for us being here tonight is to get some things out in the open, ideas. It's going to help Kevin and Nicole put together something in the future that the whole town could agree on. And I guess I'll give it up to Kevin now.
Perfect. So again, P&L, we've worked, throughout Connecticut, New York, Southern New England. My focus has been in Connecticut for the past 20 plus years. Both Nicole and I come from very small towns, similar to Voluntown. Myself, I'm half an hour north of Hampton. I understand how small towns work. We both understand the importance of, spending money correctly. I'm not looking to throw, ideas at the wall to say, well, grant funds are going to come out of Hartford, come out of the sky. And, if we design it, they'll come. We're both pragmatic. We understand how difficult it is to get money, and where that money goes is very, very important. So to that point, Nicole and I will run through the project approach of how we see it from our side of the table. But as noted, we're here tonight to receive as much feedback as possible. This master plan process is fluid from beginning to end. It is important to get this conversation started so that Nicole and I can provide you with a plan at the end that we can all be proud of. Now, I'm sure you've heard that from others, but when I say proud of, I mean buildable, I mean fundable, I mean constructible, and then usable in the long run. So recognizing that everybody in this room is going to have different priorities for different pieces of the park, different uses, different priorities, we get that. And what we're here to do tonight is listen. We've now met with the committee on a few different occasions. We've listened to them. We've come back with our ideas. But at the end of the day, our ideas only mean so much because it's your community. So the idea is have a public informational session this evening. We go back to the drawing board. We incorporate those ideas. We effectively put on paper what's going to work. And then from there, what's going to work is how then are we going to get this funded? And that final master plan is a document that then is a tool for town staff to go and apply for those grants. And in doing so, now, okay, let's understand what it looks like in year 1, year 5, year 10. And that's what we're charged with. Is, we're not the hired guns to come in and tell you it's absolutely this is going to work. We'll be pragmatic and say, you know what, it's a great idea. Ain't going to work. You're not going to get funded, or it's not going to be a long-term success. My goal is to be very upfront, very frank with you. And that's when Nicole and I come in on the back end, kind of bounce ideas off of one another, say, hey, what's worked in one location, what's worked in another location. At the end of the day, what works in Allentown. So with that, I'll turn it over to Nicole. She can run us through kind of our project understanding and approach from how we got here. And then we can start talking about kind of the set analysis that we've done, and then start looking at, those opportunities as far as, landing some new ideas on the park.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Quick question. Can you see the presentation on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. So that was a really good overview of the understanding and approach. So I'll probably keep this part brief, just so I'm not reiterating what was already said. So our understanding of the project, which Kevin touched on a little bit, is we're going to take a look at the current facilities, kind of what is needed presently, and then also for future needs, kind of big picture thinking. Public involvement is a key piece of this. So I'll reiterate that again, that your comments and your feedback are really important to move this forward in a practical manner. And then all of those pieces will lead to the conceptual master plan for the Gate Street recreation area. And then also part of this includes some engineering designs that will be prepared towards the end of the project that are actually geared towards funding applications, but they're kind of shovel-ready drawings, as we like to say. And then I'm going to switch over to the schedule on the far right side of the presentation. So we've taken a look at the existing conditions of the site. Our Connecticut team has been out there taking a look at what's going on now out there. And then also we've heard from the committee and from the town on kind of the existing conditions. We've taken that and factored it into some needs and opportunities that we see for this site, just based on our background information. So I would say we're kind of between this needs and opportunities phase and the draft master plan right now. And then following the draft master plan, we would finalize the master plan, and it would include a series of recommendations for numerous elements throughout the recreation area. It'll include operations and maintenance, since we all know how important that is when it comes to a public space, and then also some cost estimates so that we can identify some real costs for these improvements and hopefully go out for grant funding. As I mentioned earlier, it'll also include some shovel-ready construction drawings for the priority projects. And again, those will be geared towards funding applications so that hopefully the town could get some grants to construct some of these facilities. So for the approach, I'm actually going to switch to the next slide here and kind of walk through a little bit here of the existing conditions. You all are familiar with this site, I'm sure. You'll see a dashed white line that kind of encompasses the whole site that we're taking a look at. But you'll also hear later in the presentation that we're zooming out a little bit and seeing some other connections as well. So in terms of the approach, when we kind of approach these conceptual park master plans, We're really looking to obtain a deeper understanding of the recreational requirements of the community as well as the schools. This is a public space, so we want to make sure it's usable and it's the best space for your community and what is needed. We also look to determine any gaps or gaps in the facilities that might be found out here. So gaps could include lack of pedestrian connections through sidewalks, missing recreational amenities that the town is in high demand, or also future gaps that could become high demand. We also look a little bit detailed at the existing facilities that are out there. So taking a look at the existing basketball court, the existing playground, for example, is it ADA accessible or is it designed for inclusive play? Looking at the existing recreational fields, just sizing wise. We'll take a look at the grading and drainage on the site, kind of give us an understanding of how everything is working out there. We'll take a look at the pedestrian connectivity between the different amenities on this recreation space and also connections out to Route 138. And you'll see a little bit later that, again, we zoom out and look at some other connections as well that go beyond just 138. And then also looking at the existing condition of the buildings that are out there. So the existing gazebo, pavilion, and garage. Also consideration of restroom facilities, what's out there now, what is needed. So it's kind of just a big picture overview of some of the things that we have looked at to date. And I'm going to switch over to the site analysis figure here. And Kevin, you can kind of start it off and then we'll go back and forth on this one.
Perfect. So that site analysis, both done desktop view from our offices on kind of a 10,000 foot view. And then also kind of literally boots on the ground, walking around, actually seeing what works, what doesn't, and to that matter, what gets used and what doesn't. You know, recreation facilities are very telling that if you got grass on the infield, pretty good chance the ball field isn't getting used. If you got, you know, muddy spots in the soccer field, that means it's heavily used. So, you know, recreation components become kind of easy targets to track. So with that being said, we also have that gut check with yourselves, with the committee, to say, you know, just because we see it, maybe we didn't see it in the right season, or didn't see it during the right, right time of year. Season being playing season, time of year, obviously calendar. So as we start that site analysis, effectively, okay, acknowledging that, you know, we have existing parking right behind us. It's kind of nice to be having this presentation. All we can literally look out the window and say it is right there. And I will also say if there's an opportunity, if it's still light out, once we adjourn here, I'm happy to, you know, take a site walk through with anybody interested to look at some of these things on a very specific matter, as you know, things we talked about too. But that site analysis, okay, looking at things like the ball field, like the diamond, okay, it hasn't been used and doesn't get excessive use. Is that something that we want to put money into to maintain and move forward with? The soccer field, the open playing field, you know, is that something that is of high value? And we start kind of ranking those, is to say, okay, you know, the athletic or the track, you know, is that something worth putting money to? And a lot of this site analysis, these are the conversations Paul and I are having, is effectively, are these things worth enhancing? You know, are these things worth looking 1, 5, 10 years in the future too, and making sure that we're putting money into the right places? One of the obvious ones that we look towards in conversations with the town staff early on become the garage in the middle of the complex. Underused facility, what can we do with it? Looking a little further, effectively, you know, to my left, down to the water. Okay, how do we enhance a feature like that? No, frankly, that's not something that every recreation complex has, is water access. Typically, there's always something that is lacking. And in many cases that becomes access to, you know, be it fishing pier, nature pier, boating access. Not very many rec complexes that we come across have those, as well as all the other active features that you have. So looking through that site analysis, you know, Nicole touched on the basketball court. Okay, a fairly new improvement. What does that need to be maintained? How do we enhance that? what else can we do around it? What are kind of the parallel, sports and surfaces that we could also create or enhance around that? One thing that, becomes a very hot topic in many communities these days are the court sports or pickleball and related. Is that something that the community is worth, community sees worth in moving in the future? One thing Nicole and I also saw with the existing playground. The existing playground is fantastic, but it's very difficult to get to because it's not adjacent to a parking lot. Those things that kind of flag on our ranking on our end kind of contribute to this overall dialogue. Again, that's the point tonight, is kind of truth some of those with everybody here. But frankly, a lot of the infrastructure here just needs maintenance, just needs enhancement, just needs money to be put to it, to that, to the operations, to the maintenance, to the long-term goals. And a lot of those things become, how do we enhance now so that we reduce the maintenance in the future? Okay, additional parking. We see everybody in this room right now, that generally fills the paved parking lot. How do we increase that all-weather surface parking so that when you have, teams on fields, when you have, residents walking, when you have people down at the water, making sure that there's enough suitable all-weather access. But then also recognizing we don't want to just pave the park. Is to say, how do we start kind of phasing that, looking at pervious pavers, looking at, permeable pavement, grass pavers, are there kind of opportunities for some overflow parking so that when you look out the window, it still is grass and green, but there's a structure beneath it so that you can park there after it rains. Going back to the garage, what does that amenity look like in the future? Honestly, it doesn't look like what it does today as the very immediate answer. But what is that? Is that a second picnic pavilion? Is that a pavilion that has access to public restrooms? Are there more amenities that can go into that square footage? Recognizing that we're looking to frankly be bound by that square footage. We're not looking to increase the overall footprint, but right now a 4 or 5 bay garage could be a lot, there's a lot higher value to that in the overall park space than a, frankly, nearly vacant building. So, that's one of those conversations that we had very early on. That's one of those through that side analysis. And I can turn this over to Nicole for the items that I've missed here because I'm kind of, spitballing, if you will, as we talk through this. These are the items that caught my attention early on. And we kind of circled back with as far as the committee's conversations and kind of reoccurring themes. But the ones I see are highly prioritized would be additional safe, secure, all-weather parking. What can we do with that garage? The fields kind of ranking the hierarchy of what gets used, what doesn't, how do we improve what does get used? And then on this next slide, once we get there, is what are those master plan elements? What are the things that aren't here now that this community, people in this room want to see? Because the master plan process becomes the fun process. And effectively throw everything at the wall, see what sticks. And then once we know what sticks, we embed that into the master plan document, and that's the tool that we use to go out and look for grant funding. So at this point, there's no bad idea. And I'm sure everybody in this room has heard that, becomes trite as far as, hey, there's no bad idea, let's brainstorm. But at this point in the process, that really is the point, is what do you see? Like it could be into the granular, I see a X, or think big picture, I see Y. There's nothing that Nicole and I are going to say, well, that's absolutely, a harebrained idea. We can say to you that it may not fit the program, the cost, and the community as a whole from our side of the table. But if you press us on it and say, no, this is really where we want this community to go, you know what, let's talk about that deeper and let's see how we can make that a reality in the document, and then start seeing if there's funding allowed or afforded, I should say. But then, Nicole, I can kick that back over to you as far as any of the set analysis that I missed as I was not going to say rambling, but as I was
Eat Street. Read itself.
the street itself, and that's that pedestrian access becomes one opportunity we talked about initially, was how do we increase pedestrian access off of 138 off of Main. Recognizing when you walk down there right now, it's, you know, kind of barricaded in by chain link fence and parking on two sides. So, we've talked some on-street parking, we've talked sidewalks, we've talked more pedestrian friendly boulevard. We've talked a lot of things, and that's one of those components. Again, we'd really like to hear some thoughts from this group for, you know, what that looks like in your head. But with that, Nicole, what did I miss?
All right, thanks. I'm just going to touch on kind of an overview of some of the colors and line types and things that you're seeing on this map that's up on the screen. So Gate Street rec area itself, again, is in this dashed white line, kind of in the center of this page. We also identified some of the residential areas that surround the property. So considering some sort of screening from those will be important, kind of a visual screening, but then also allowing access so people within those residential areas can still get to the recreation area. You'll see this navy blue, that's going to be the community uses. So of course, that's the school use right now. Some things over here that we had discussed with the committee is the existing sledding hill use. Kind of people come to the school, park at the school and use that hill for sledding. We may not have had the most sledding winter. However, I'm sure when there is more snow, it's used more often. And then the connection from the school to the existing playing field there. We also have this pink color that you'll see, which is commercial uses. So again, some sort of connectivity to and from those, but also a visual separation is nice. You'll see these orange circles. Those are kind of the main access points that we observed into this recreation area. You'll also see the P, those are just the existing parking that's out there now. The orange solid lines, which you can see along Route 138, where the existing pedestrian circulation is. It does not identify any proposed pedestrian circulation just yet. The navy blue dashed line that you see on here is just the vehicular circulation, but that's town-owned roadways or driveways. The pink dashed line, which you see on Route 138, is also vehicular circulation, but that's state-owned. So that's important too, coordination with the state for anything down there. And then the green dots that you see on the map are the existing trees, and the yellow dots that you see on here are the existing disc golf targets.
So from there, once we look at the existing conditions with that analysis, you start looking at those opportunities, both to enhance what's there and then effectively where are the gaps. So, and that's a conversation that, you know, some of the gaps we see, you know, may not kind of truth out the things that the community wants. But initially, now that this next plan shows kind of our first blush at the site opportunities, you know, both in program elements and in location. So in essence, and Nicole, I will say I'm standing just far enough away from the screen that I can't actively point to anything, but I will say, once we start looking kind of, you know, if we go counterclockwise from the existing rec field that is nearest the school, there becomes a good opportunity there as far as enhancing that existing field adjacent to the existing school.
Excuse me, can we zoom in on the areas that you're talking about? Because it's kind of hard to see from here what you're doing. So as you talk about each area, if you could zoom in on the map, it'd make it a little bit easier for everyone in the room.
That's the great flexibility of having this both hybrid or having this hybrid.
Thank you.
I don't have to, you know, walk around with a board and say, here it is.
Yeah, no, that's much better. Thank you, Nicole.
So, yeah, so this existing recreation field, recognizing it's, you know, the primary access as far as visual access from 138, you see that field front and center. It's also the most convenient access from the school, both on the ramp and the stairs down to the school. So that becomes one of the areas that we want to highlight, enhance, determine what we want, you know, what does that field need? Does it need irrigation? Does it need new drainage? Does it need, I'll say lighting, but it's not something we've talked about. You know, what does that field need to make it a first class field for the town? If in fact you say to us, yes, that's the correct location, because this opportunity, we also have the existing rec field kind of at, 10 o'clock in this, on this plan that has the walking track around it. So, okay, let's start ranking those two uses, and that's where we rely on feedback from yourselves as far as, those fields are concerned. The large pink space adjacent to the existing rec field, that's the removal of the existing ball field. Creation of a new flexible green space, potential for additional track and field sports. We look at that space as underused and in the future not worth putting additional money into. You can, I would be happy to be proven wrong, and I'd be happy for this group to tell me otherwise. But the way we look at that field is, if it's not used, it's not worth putting additional money into. And by saying that, then there's other uses that we could.
So historically, as a commission, the rec commission itself, we have researched multiple ways to get funding for the upgrades and maintenance of that field. Turns out it wasn't really the greatest avenue to take. But you're right. I mean, it gets use, but it doesn't get the use it used to. And there were local leagues that used to use it. And we've solicited donations from them to no avail. So it's difficult for us with the budget that we have, put the funds into that space and keep it the way it should be for other people to use it when we don't get a reciprocal type of, relationship. That's kind of the why it looks the way it does.
In addition to track and field in that area, have you considered like a small open space for outdoor yoga or tai chi?
We'd be 100% happy to entertain everything, every idea that you have. Absolutely, 100%. That's great. That's fantastic.
And that's it. And I think that becomes kind of that outdoor flex space, if you will, to say proximity wise, it's close to the existing parking. It's close to the street, so people see it. And I think that becomes part of the dialogue here is, how does this get noticed? How does this, how does this part get seen from 138? If you're not in this room and if you're not in this community, how do we know this exists?
I think your term flexible green space kind of opens the window for anything, more or less, whatever it may be. Yeah, it's flexible.
Yes,
What about a bike trail or a tennis court?
you beat me to it. So moving further up screen, moving further north, adjacent to or to the existing basketball courts. You see that pink space indicating remove the existing playground and leave room for the expansion of playing courts. Tennis courts are one of the items that we talked about. I come back to pickleball because I'm utterly amazed at how popular pickleball is right now. Just let that stand the way it is. Recognizing that becomes an ideal location. We already have an impervious playing surface.
Add to your list volleyball or sand volleyball.
Yes.
Yep.
We actually have a really good connection for that. The sand pit in Groton was actually willing to donate equipment, and they donated a design. Again, budget restrictions and some differences of opinion kind of tabled that. And then this came up, so then we just kind of never revisited. Am I correct, Mark?
Yeah, so essentially,
Yes.
the whole volleyball discussion actually led to this, yeah.
Because I was like, let's get a
Yeah,
plan before
right.
we put sand somewhere.
Right, essentially, initially, we thought about putting the volleyball court right next to that pavilion, that way there was shade. for those-
Electricity.
Right, electricity, shade for those using the court. But then it was brought up, okay, well, there's already some user groups using that space. So then we thought about moving it across the street next to the playground. And then, like Mike was saying, okay, now we kind of lost that electricity, we lost that shaded space, the seating space. And then right around that time, COVID happened. Along came the ARPA funding.
Yeah.
And that's where we are today to make sure that we're.
Can it go where the sledding hill is? Because in the winter, you're not gonna be able to play volleyball, and then it could be a winter
Right.
sledding and a summer
Right.
I think everybody's intention is to not take that sledding hill away.
Oh, no,
That's like a
no.
town icon.
So I'm even gonna go so far as to say, how about a tow rope?
I'm a skier, I'm with you. I'm with you. Takes us into a different shirt.
So yeah, the whole placement of everything is exactly why we reached out and started this process.
So, and that becomes a great opportunity. Effectively, volleyball becomes one of those features that not every community wants, but those who do love them. And I think that's something that Nicole and I'll speak for myself, Nicole, you could say otherwise. Volleyball, sand volleyball is not one of the ones on the top of my list that I would generally suggest on the, at this stage in the design. It's not something we see often, but again, those people that love it are diehards. So I think that's the feedback that we like.
So, if we already have a soccer field on the library side of the park, we don't need another one on the other side.
Actually, we need the big one. The little one isn't big enough to play, and the school uses it to play their soccer games every year when we have a soccer league.
The big
Right,
one.
at school. And the other one in the middle, a lot of people practice on that one now, the groups. Like Brazil soccer, they'll use it. So we need the big one, maybe we don't need the little one, but we definitely need the big one.
And that's one of the things that we're ranking is to say, okay, if space is at a premium and we're looking to add and bring new things in, do we need redundancy? Do we need 2 soccer fields? And you bring up that point, and that's a question that we effectively throw back into the community is to say, if the programming here says there's a better use for that interior space, the walking track, that's how we'll approach it. Because to that point, a community of this size, one large suitable soccer field that has adequate drainage and adequate grading, can be very well suited for all the use it needs in one year. In larger communities, or if there are fields that are not optimal, you wind up having 2 so that you can stagger the use and restore one playing surface while the other one's being used.
How about using the interior of the walking track for community gardening?
And the yoga. We can combine it. Peace garden and a yoga.
We'll bring in some goats and we'll have goat yoga. Okay.
Go yoga.
I almost myself, but since you did, I don't need to.
I actually had, so one of the things that I had noticed just in my reading, a lot of the other playgrounds that they are an hour, half an hour at the post have splash pads. We don't have anything like that close by. We have a lot of people that have a lot of young kids. Yes, we have the pond. We like to do that. Sometimes it's more hassle than it's worth.
Yep.
That is something that I know even like for us, we go to a different community so we can enjoy that. Is that something, liability is a big issue. So I don't know if that's even off the table, because is that something where some of those other spaces have been brought up?
It has been brought up, and one of the parallel conversations becomes suitable water to substantiate that use. It's not off the table, it's been brought up, and that's, a recurring theme. But again, that is hinged on determining as far as the potability and suitability of the existing water or the opportunity for additional water on the property.
Fish can't use that for water.
Right.
You go swimming in it, but you can't swim it on a kid.
That's a serious permitting situation.
So again, moving upstream to that last pink area of Bicycle Skills Park. That's something that becomes very, very popular amongst many communities at this point. It's a reoccurring theme that we're seeing in many of our park and rec complexes. And we feel that it would be very well suited in a community such as Allentown, because frankly, you're surrounded by Patchogue State Forest with an active mountain biking community. What better way to get kids started and into, kind of that pathway into outdoor recreation than a skills park at the town park? Then that leads them into, future and additional uses out into Patchogue and beyond.
Should we touch on potential for other things in Patchogue as well?
Yes. Yep.
That being, speaking about the bicycle park area.
Yes.
I had a question about that.
Yeah.
Like, so most people around here have dirt driveways, you know, it's hard for a kid to learn, so they come up to the school and then that's a liability for the school. You know, you can only learn so much. So I like the idea of a bicycle skill park, but I want an actual track or somewhere for the kids to actually go more than just in a circle. Did you guys figure that in? Did I not read it in the plans?
No, no, so we didn't, we looked at the overall square footage here. One of the things that we have talked about, and that did come up as a theme, is a walking trail throughout. Because Patch Hog is so nearby, we kind of deferred out to the larger, you know, trail network. Kind of leveraging the relationship, be it good, bad, or indifferent, that relationship with DEP and the state parks is to say, you know, there is, and many in this room may know more about it than I, but I will say that there is a development of, you know, a mountain biking trail system in the southern portion of Patch Hog. I reached out to DEP for this meeting in hopes of getting an update for that. I have not received one, but as of 2 months ago, that was going to public informational meeting quote in the spring. So I would like to think that there's more information coming as far as the progress of that park, you know, that specific mountain bike park within Patch Hog that would, you know, increase the mountain bike ability and bikeability within the state park. That's the reason we didn't focus on it here.
Because you're still dealing with children that are learning to ride a bike on dirt, and that's a different skill than, you know, somebody who's a mountain biker.
So the walking track he's referring to potentially, which obviously is on the table, be it could circumvent a large portion of this square footage. Impermeable, permeable, whatever we do choose cost wise or otherwise, I think would solve that dirt problem. There are permeable surfaces that are rigid so that the older community could access it very, very easily, which in turn, a child your son's age there could ride his bike on it or learn very easily as well.
The old people come walking.
And that's right.
Get killed by little kids. That's where the yoga comes in, right?
Well, I think a really good example of that is, you know, a lot of our surrounding or towns north of us have these rail trails.
Right. That's right.
Not specifically saying it would be that nature, but everybody uses it.
Right.
From road racers to kids learning how to ride a bike to older folks to people who are in rehabilitation from injuries. They're that simple and they're designed that way. You know, rail trails are extremely popular. Portland, Marlborough, Hebron, Manchester, they're miles and miles and miles of.
Yeah, and as far as the contact at DEP, she is the Greenways coordinator who's an active cyclist herself. So the point here is recognizing Patch Hog's importance to the cycling community, but also looking, again, to your point, something where, you know, the skills park is not just a dirt, you know, square, but you know, the skills park is, you know, a paved portion or impervious portion somewhere that becomes a great opportunity. So absolutely.
I have a question about the playground being way over here. Did the kids use it at the like at the school? Do they go out to recess there, or they only use the playground in the back? They use both. They use both. They come down there sometimes too. So
like it was
Hey, we have students here.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
like that building on that. You wouldn't want your kid to be going across the street.
well, exactly.
Yeah,
One gym teacher cannot watch all those kids do projects.
yeah.
I know, especially if it's Rassic.
So where are the two parks, like the two planes and all that?
So what we were looking at doing again, and you bring up a good point as far as the focus of the existing playground proximity to the existing school. We were looking at that kind of on the flip side, is to say the existing playground is not well suited to the existing parking lot on the Gate Street complex. So we were looking to relocate that effectively, barely reach that, but closer in nature to the walking trail or the walking track. And there'll be an enhanced parking lot around what's now the garage. Is to say that somebody can arrive with a small child, park, and their proximity to the playscape is immediate. They're not walking across Gate Street, they're not walking down from chain link fencing to the ball field, and then across a grass surface to the playscape.
but why could you not, if you scroll back north a little bit? There's some open space that you guys have between the pickleball court and the like. Yep. Stuff. Yep. Why could we not put parking in there, keep the existing playground kind of where it is, move that other open space to the other side?
What we were trying to do is centralize the parking lot, so it wasn't.
And also get the parking on that end though.
And that's it. So, that's kind of 6 of one, half dozen the other, is to say, we were looking to centrally locate the parking lot and effectively use that as a node that people would arrive and then go to their destinations.
Then for the, and also for the open space, we're technically not supposed to turn it into parking lots. We have to work with the parking.
Pre-existing condition.
Yeah, we can't put parking lot on area for open space.
Is there any opportunity for additional parking like on the right side of
I
the
don't,
street?
unless it's like lined up on the side of the road, like parallel parking, I don't
Or
think so.
just expand what it is next to the basketball court anyways, bring it further down.
Because what's there, 3 or 4 handicap spots are right there next to the basketball court. 2?
Yeah, there are 2 spots there, and they're not, well marked handicap. They're not handicap compliant grading, location wise. Never a good idea to have vehicles backing me out onto a public road. They're really not ideally located. So, if we have the opportunity, I'd rather not, kind of double down and leave them there if possible. But to the point of, there has been that conversation about on-street parking, parallel parking along Gate Street.
And then another question is, why do you have 2 separate playgrounds and why are they so far apart? I mean, people have kids this age, that age, right? She's got.
Yeah, that's a comment.
EG, this is a conceptual drawing. This is not set in stone, so.
Well, no, that's why I'm asking.
Well,
What was the point of separating them?
it's to help us talk about it,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what was your plan?
I
about that?
agree with that. They should be together.
Well, yeah, you got one parent gonna take a 10-year-old and a 4-year-old, what now?
So our thinking on that is playgrounds, keep them together and keep them in close proximity to the parking lot. Now, I'm not saying keep them so close that vehicles are an issue as far as, children's safety. But, because I'm seeing some of those looks on faces that I'm saying that. But the intent is not to have them, a quarter mile away from where you park your car. So that if you have a child running to a playscape, you have a child that's you're getting out, and putting in their stroller, you're not effectively losing one child while you're trying to wrangle the other one out of the car. The idea would be if somebody's coming to a playscape, give them prime access.
No, I get that part about the parking. I'm talking about why is the 2 to 5-year-old way down here? And then the other playground that seems to be way up there now.
Yeah, that question has come up from at least a half dozen town folks who are not in this meeting. So that's a common theme in terms of questioning it.
And that's perfect. And that's, recognizing that.
So there was a couple of things going on. Somebody from the library was very interested in having the younger children's playscape closer to the library for some kind of synergy there. So that was just one force. There was also a lot of comments that the older kids pollute the atmosphere at the playground for the younger kids with their language and their behavior, and they're not supervised. And when parents come with the younger kids, it's really a hassle. So let's separate them. So that was another force. And then to get it closer to the proposed bathroom, which is kind of thought is maybe where the old garage
Yeah,
is
and that's
there.
kind of
So
the
those were
middle.
the forces separating them at the time.
For me, I have a 1.5-year-old, then I got an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. If I'm watching, I'm gonna obviously have to be by the 2 to 5 because my 1.5 is gonna run out and get hit by a US food truck flying 50 miles per hour plus on that road and get flat. While I'm trying to watch my other kids, which they'll be way down there, how am I gonna be able to see, oh, there's Mackenzie, oh, a car just came and stole my kid, when I'm trying to watch my other kid. I mean, obviously, I'm thinking worst case scenario, but if my kid falls off of the monkey bars or whatever, and I'm over by my 2.5-year-olds, or 1.5-year-olds, then I just find issue with that. Like, I definitely would not want the little kids' playground so close to this road unless there was like
a excellent fence that would be able to block them off.
And what's that purple line? That's not a fence. No, that's a trail.
That's the walking
That's
trail.
the one.
But even just the distance of watching them, one of my kids starts being the bad kid and I can't be over there to stop them because I have to pick and choose which kid and I'm obviously gonna pick the youngest.
Doesn't it depend on the day?
I do like that where the 5 to 12-year-old playground is. I've seen it flooded there. So that's something to keep in mind, because you don't want the playground flooded and then the kids playing in the puddles.
So the kids aren't good from the school aren't gonna be using the playgrounds in
They can
this whole
still
thing
use,
anymore.
they can still use that. They can still
They
use
do
it.
it now.
Yeah, they do it now.
They go where now?
They go to the pavilion and,
They do.
yeah, and they're on the walking track. So they cross it now.
Okay.
So, like, why would you wanna keep the younger kids by the library? Cause if they're that close, then don't you wanna keep the space by the library quiet?
Really?
Well said. Well said.
I mean, everyone knows you can't stop a baby from crying, right?
I think they're actually part of having to go to the library that.
They're trying
Why?
to. Well, the walking trail can go right by it. I don't know.
So, all right, with this, I'm gonna take a break speaking and turn over to Nicole to carry it through.
Keep that. I've had enough of this.
I think you covered most of it, Kevin. I got some additional things just to add on some other items that we're looking at. So Kevin touched on this walking trail. So that came in as a comment, I believe, from the committee and kind of this loop system. I think in response to hearing the desire for a flat surface for younger kids to learn, it might make sense to kind of add a segment through here, or maybe look at a couple smaller loops, because it's really fun for kids to kind of go in a loop and then have a manageable distance to where parents can keep an eye on that loop. So we could take a look at that to add kind of like a flatter bike path.
Can I interrupt for a second? I'm sorry, Nicole.
Yeah.
Since you're speaking about this perimeter walking path, is there any way to kind of incorporate ADA compliancy for access to all these branches of these other locations along with including that walking path? Like she said, connect them. I mean, obviously you have to just deal with grading and material and warning, et cetera, but
I think it's a hard maybe.
a hard maybe.
The concerns I see would be getting access down to the water and back up. So it may be a walking loop that is kind of split in two, where the walking loop would then incorporate the existing walking path or walking track around the existing field to, kind of come into one end, come out the other, and then loop through the pavilion areas and over to the playscape areas. And then there would be a secondary lower loop that would require you to drive down to the water access to have a lower, handicap accessibility component to the water. So that we're not, incorporating switchbacks coming up the hill to hit that 5% threshold. So there may be kind of two different tiers, is to say, well, 75% of the park can be accessed, on a safe handicap accessible loop, and then the lower section would be, water access would be kind of a different point of access. But that's just kind of thinking out loud. So again, maybe that is something we can incorporate as far as the grading at the time to see how much of that we can get without going overboard.
So, as you're talking about the walking trail again, you don't, so like if someone's walking on the walking trail, then like an SUV is coming to go to the pond, you don't want an accident right there.
Correct? You don't. I think that would then become kind of two-part, is some informational signage, effectively letting the person driving that SUV know that there could be a pedestrian walking in front of them. That would be, the crosswalks, the signage that would say crossing ahead or pedestrian crossing ahead. A lot of that becomes informational, it's educational too. So.
And plus, some, if it's rained a lot, then the potholes are gonna come.
You are not kidding there.
Kind of make the potholes go.
Were you taking into consideration of leaving the playground equipment as it is, or were you guys thinking you could still use that existing spot, but do upgrades or, you know, put in a new playground or anything like that? I'm just wondering if that would allow things to make it more accessible for other children that maybe are not, you know, more with disabilities or, you know, other features that could be more sensory.
Absolutely. We talked about a lot of things on that playground. Moving it and moving it entirely with new equipment. Leaving it as is for the time being. I think a lot of that also comes down to kind of grant funding, is to say what comes first, because that's part of what Nicole and I are doing, is kind of giving that hierarchy, giving that ranking of first, second, third, last. Is to say, if you have an existing playscape that's functioning as it is today, that's not going to be the first thing that we would recommend getting torn out and replaced if there's money better spent elsewhere. But in that overall master plan, it'll be on the list that says, you know, we move and relocate. So, but again, that's kind of where that hierarchy is. That's to be, you know, that's to be flushed out, you know, moving forward between now and when the plan's finished.
So like, is there any way that like instead of just completely demolishing the place, why can't you just like remove all the footing, divide it into the categories, and then just like drive it over to the other side? Why would you need why would you need an entirely new thing? Why can't you just save money and just bring the existing stuff on the other side of the road?
That is absolutely possible.
And I have another point. When we have soccer games, you know, he's playing soccer, the little ones are coming. They go to the playground, their parents can watch the game and keep an eye on the kids, but if it's over there, that's not.
Good point.
Good point.
So,
Good point. So I think from everything we've heard is more work to be done on the playscape location. And that's
What's the biggest ADA issue for the current playscape location? Is it grade or is it just lack of a hard surface?
There is no.
right.
There's 088.
And we get a lot of.
Right, but is it putting in a hard or semi-permeable surface? Is a grade an issue?
I don't think grades are an issue.
No,
It's
no,
mostly, it's
that
far from the
surface.
parking and
Okay,
people have a hard time bringing like strollers down there and
it's
over the grass.
And
there's
yeah,
no shade.
I think to Mike's point.
Right, there's also where are the gates through the fence located too, Burr?
There's really not any ADA component to the existing playground. There's really no feature that someone, you know, that is handicapped could utilize in the existing
We
playground.
couldn't even get to it.
Right.
I thought it was my understanding that playscape is about reach to life expectancy.
Yeah, it's.
That too.
Yeah, that's what I didn't know.
Yeah.
So, I've been drafted by about a dozen friends to come and speak up for, number one, the sand volleyball court. Which I think would be good timing because Voluntown School just started a volleyball program. And, you know, a lot of kids go in high school play too. So, and the other thing, pickleball courts for sure. A lot of people interested in that at my age. Another thing, so some days I'll just go behind the firehouse and hit a ball against the wall. Or hit a pickleball ball against the wall. And we used to have a wall right there, kind of by the sledding hill. And it was useful when you ran practices too, because if a kid, you know, needed like a timeout to go chill or something, they could just go past against the wall themselves. I feel like it's a really simple, cheap thing to add that anybody can go and play by themselves. You just need a hard wall and a hard surface for bounce. So,
Fair enough. Fair enough. That's something that we'll take back with us. That's not something that we talked about yet. So,
yeah,
I live on Gate Street and I over on the pickleball courts and everything. And I just wanted to speak up against not having the pickleball courts with their current proposed location,
Mhm.
because like I'm a straight earshot right to those pickleball courts.
Pickleball
And-
noisy.
It's extremely.
Oh, is it?
Yes,
I don't know
it
that.
is. So, just trying to sit out of my and relax out back. I can hear a basketball game going on in my bedroom. So a pickleball game is gonna be even worse. So maybe up closer to the road to kind of drone out some of that noise. I'm sure you probably run into this all the time about pickleball courts, because I just wanted to bring it everyone's attention. They're extremely noisy and I want everyone to know about it before,
Everybody loves them and a lot of people hate them. Yeah.
Nope.
No, it's
no,
yelling.
it's like the frequency at like which the ball
It's like a
like
ping pong
resonates,
ball
like
noise.
right in that like
But
sweet
really
spot.
loud.
I also live
Like
on
human
Gate Street
sentiment.
and I will agree with that, like, yeah, that would be, I like playing pickleball. I've played pickleball for probably 10, 12 years. But that location right there, it's, I mean, yeah, we listen to basketball and we've gotten used to it, but having basketball and pickleball going at the same time, might be a little, I want you guys to have fun and everything, but I want my sanity as well.
So that being said, the removal of the existing ball field,
Mhm.
being an open space.
Yeah.
Could also be a location.
On that,
also
I would
flat
say
there.
we probably should leave the backstop because I still see a lot of people practicing
Well,
daily out there.
on that note, I'm kind of partial to that field staying. I know it needs a lot of work.
The diamond?
A lot of our kids.
It needs not just, it doesn't need a lot of work. It
It
needs.
needs to be
I know it
redone.
does. I know it does.
And that's
It's also-
Yeah.
It's all part of our history.
Yeah.
Well, it used to be
I really don't want to see a ball field go away.
yeah, it used to be that there was enough overflow from Griswold Little League, right, that they put a team in Volantown. It wasn't all Volantown kids, but
They would
they
play
get
games,
practice
play games
time.
there.
Right. I mean, I just think, I gotta agree with Scott that I just think it's like, a baseball diamond is one of those things that you build it and they will come. I think if the kids are gonna come down to the field.
You got that from the movie, didn't you?
No, it's a movie, oh, sweet. But, if you're gonna play baseball and you come down, you look at that infield the way it is, you're not gonna play there. But that may encourage the kids to come down if we had a diamond that was maintained where it lost that maintenance and.
It costs a lot of
I
money.
played baseball my whole life. Right up until college. And I love baseball. And yeah, I think it's an awesome fixture for the town. I think the major issue is what you see right now is lack of maintenance. And there's a reason for that. It's not for lack of caring about it.
It's
The
the
lack of
town doesn't
necessity.
want to pay the money
It's
for it.
maintenance.
Well,
And that's the, and without the assistance from the neighboring towns who use it, leave their garbage there, leave their equipment there that we pick up.
Because it would be
And
taxpayers
into the
paying
toilet that
for
they
it.
use and nobody else does through our budget. And just over the course of time, it's just been like, I don't know, how do we do this, you know? Or how do we keep it up?
Things are cost.
That's right, and that being said, this entire facility, we have to keep in mind that is going to be part of it, you know, that we had the operations and maintenance from the get-go, what Kevin said. You know, that's gonna be.
That's gonna be a long-term budget cost
That's
is the
right.
maintenance.
Well,
So
yeah,
we have to think of that.
I like this idea and I'm all for it, but. Compliments to the rec committee for the time and if you put in everything you do for the town. But this, no, but this goes from a group of volunteers, which are doing an incredible job, to a line item.
Right,
Mhm.
that's why the
And-
field's expensive.
And not only a line item, but there's people that have to perform that maintenance. I mean, the splash pad's a great idea, but who's gonna maintain that
Right.
concrete, the potable water system? I mean, big towns have it or private companies because, you know, they have that
They have an
infrastructure.
O&M budget.
Exactly. And we don't have that. So now this falls to town crew.
Those three guys.
Right.
Yeah, so that's why we're planning, that's why we have to plan with that in mind. And that's one
Right.
of the reasons why we didn't reconsider the ball field, because that's like a full-time job right there, just maintaining the ball field, as well as the cost of maintaining it as a line.
I think we're lucky it's been what it is for
Yeah.
so long.
Oh,
Because of
I agree.
volunteers like you guys,
Yeah.
that put your time and blood and sweat and tears into it, keep it.
Oh, yeah, and this is not anything, I mean, the rec committee,
I
but
just-
now we're getting beyond,
Yeah.
we're getting beyond the rec committee. You know, I mean, it's just coming to a line item.
Yeah, that's what we,
And just because you say line item, that also means people.
yeah,
You know, I mean, you have three guys in the town crew for the town. I'm not saying that they're not gonna be down here every day or whatever, but it's gonna add something to that maintenance cycle
Right.
of the town.
So they mow the soccer field, they
Yeah.
go and take care of all.
They're mowing the soccer field.
Yeah, we fertilize.
Right,
the
right,
climate
but at
every
some
year.
point, it's the 3-person crew is gonna need to be a 4-person crew.
or,
And-
and the
and,
other
you
thing
know,
is, in
Yeah.
the future, it might not even be like a public works position, but a part-time like rec position.
Right.
So, but it is gonna be another item depending on what we put here. So that's why we're trying to think of that too. And that's
No,
one of the reasons why we took.
I
the
agree.
ball
Oh, no, I'm
field.
just bringing it up. I'm not against it. I'm just-
We've never had a baseball team, not in my lifetime anyway. Did they ever? Did Valentine Elementary ever?
Oh, I'm just here from 88. I mean, you guys know that. You're ready to.
Never.
I don't know if they accept it. I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Newcomer.
Yeah. 1980, 35 years.
No elementary schools have them?
Yeah, they do.
Do they?
There's been a Franklin.
Yeah, middle school though.
Baseball, really?
Yeah, the bigger cities, bigger
Well, the
towns.
Bowling
That's going, all right. We don't need to have a lot.
meeting.
So I'm not against like keeping the baseball field. The only thing is, we, like Gigi says, we don't have a team. We have Jewett City Little League. Everybody joins Jewett City Little League that goes there. Or Jewett City Little League tries to use our field to practice, it doesn't give us any money.
Right, and they get the money from the parents.
And to do that is a lot of money and maintenance, like you said, it's a huge issue. So I'm not against it, but I don't think it's gonna work. Because we don't have a team and all the kids go to Jewett.
Their budget's like ridiculous and strapped. I'm aware of that situation. It's bad. They're this close to not even being there. Jewett City. They don't own their fields. They lease that from. They lease it from, I think it was John Cartier. So that's not even their property.
They play on Sheldon Road too.
So.
So I have a question going back to Gate Street residents and the existing basketball court and the proposed pickleball court is we've got some visual blocking elements here. Is there anything that can be done in terms of sound mitigation?
The best mitigation to sound is distance. You know, you see DOTs approach the sound by going noise walls on the highway. Aside from a noise wall, the best mitigation is distance because sound is going to travel. And, you know, okay, vegetation helps, but be honest, we're going to be out here watching the tree grow. It's not going to be in a life cycle that's prudent for us to really, you know, suggest.
Okay.
Yes, you wouldn't want it by the library. You don't want them screaming.
I also, on that as well, if you look where the pickleball courts are, they're almost right next to the school as well. And I'm sure like, I have a young son, he's not in elementary school yet, but I imagine that those classrooms, they like to have the window open on a spring day.
The
You know,
one
pickleball,
benefit
like,
to
right
that is
there.
the classrooms are all on the opposite side of the school and there's that big hillside.
Yeah.
Will buffer the sound a little bit,
Okay.
but you make a really good point.
Yeah.
You, and you really think this pickleball thing is gonna be action all day long?
I honestly do. If you like Google search pickleball,
Pickleball is blowing up nationally everywhere. And Gigi, all ages, kids up through, middle-aged folks like you and me.
I thought once at the senior center inside, was indoor.
I was a summer camp director for 10 years and we had 8 pickleball courts and they were full all day long. Kindergarten through high school.
Well, Colchester just refurbished all their tennis courts to pickleball courts.
Wow.
Yeah, it's,
I didn't know what it was before this. So.
A lot of parks, if you go to a park at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, the one feature that's gonna be used is pickleball. It is.
So, so like, with pickleball, what?
It's
okay.
You asked a lot of good questions so far, Ms. Cantz.
So I have two questions, two separate questions. We haven't touched base on either one of them. They're up there. You guys have proposed to remove the invasive stuff along the water. I know that so how much of the invasive stuff are you removing? Are we clearing that whole strip right back so that the trees are just there and all the invasive stuff is gone? So there's clear view to the water? Is that the plan, or is it just in key locations?
So the answer is yes, because either one of those could be, could be the ultimate goal. Ideally, myself, I'd like all the invasives gone.
My problem with that, or my concern with that is, and I've seen it happen, I know other towns have the problem, and then you probably didn't guess where I'm going, is that those green fields that are gonna become geese traps. The geese love the sight of the water. So it's no, we have these problems in town, how are we gonna deal with that?
Beautiful.
And it's not.
No, but not during school, because we had that before.
So, that becomes an extra cost for the town to keep the geese out of there, because if we're doing all this work, we're
I
not.
have
gonna
a
look out.
solution for that, okay? You put a dog park down there and barking
Well,
the
that's.
dogs will.
there you go.
But I'm just saying, so if we're cleaning that out, it is gonna create a problem. The other concern.
Yeah.
See, we're proposing that we do a new facility where the bathroom, where the old town garage is. With hopes that we're doing, the farmer's market there. The reason the farmers markets aren't there is because we can't have the farmers market on that property due to wording in the language of that property deed.
No, the reason why it wasn't there was because we had better viewage and traffic at the school.
So.
Because we did have it back here before.
But then
And no one came.
There was language that was in the deed that stated, so was that?
Well, was that the language from the state giving us usage?
No, because I don't think that I think we misread that because we have had events where people bought stuff and it's not a problem.
Okay.
It wasn't read right.
And this whole thing, correct, because that's deeded to the town, to the state, from the state.
Yeah.
All of what we do here has to go to the state for approval, correct?
Not 100% sure on that. It just has to be used for open space.
You're dealing with easements on 138, so yes, to answer your question that way.
Oh, if
As
there's.
far as the town road is concerned, that's probably a town easement situation.
Well,
So anything done on the state road, you'd have to get state
I believe
permits.
even the pavilion and stuff went to this, well, I know that,
We never got permits through the state to do the pavilion.
No.
no.
And the only
stairs were-
restriction we have is that
Maybe because of the school.
It's probably because of the school.
the only restriction we have is the garage. We can't put permanent buildings on it has to be used for open space recreation stuff. You can't.
Except for the footprint of the garage,
Except
right?
for the footprint of the garage. We can put another building there, the same size, but we can't change it or move it somewhere else, because that was there when we got the property.
You could put a building there
You can't put,
as a small community center where winter yoga and Tai Chi and whatever.
there wouldn't really be that much room, probably. So it would be more for like bathrooms, and we need storage. So it would be more for that.
I would rather see that if that.
Probably an office space for the rec department, because they don't have anything. We're so limited.
Yeah, absolutely, but you can still have things.
So the guy, a couple of years ago, you got something in writing that clarified the open space.
Yeah.
It's done.
So what's the next step?
Well, and I have one more question. That digital sign, is that gonna be both for the field and for the road?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So to that point, next steps, I've been talking for, Nicole and I have been talking for about an hour and 10 minutes. So effectively wrapping this series up. Our next steps would be to take this, the dialogue that we heard, the recordings of this meeting back, update this, conceptual plan, and then present that back to the committee at their upcoming meeting and start drafting the outline of what this master plan looks like. And that would be then kind of discussed in public meetings with the committee. And then what we'd be looking to do is have another public informational session when the master plan is nearly complete, kind of substantially complete, roll out the details, some of the scheduling, some of the operations and management stuff, costs, and start kind of getting into the granular detail of what we're suggesting. And then from there, wrap it up so that in that July timeframe that Nicole had indicated initially, we'd be kind of signed, sealed, delivered, so that then we could wrap, this phase of work up and then kind of start aggressively looking for grant monies to support these features that we've been talking about. So that is it in a nutshell. But again, there's a lot of detail to be put on paper, both in writing and graphics over the next couple of months.
But keep in mind, our committee, Gate Street committee meetings are public as well. So if you have any feedback, you're welcome to be there. It's not a closed meeting, it's a public meeting.
Yeah, and to continue this dialogue, that's when Nicole and I enjoy, we don't want to be doing this in a bubble. We'd rather be doing this in a public setting, getting this kind of feedback, kind of getting that immediate feedback from the audience. Absolutely.
How big is the digital sign?
We have the foggiest idea.
Okay.
No.
Think about this when you're trying to decide the size and location of that. That's right behind the goal, the soccer ball. The balls do go over to the package store on occasion, and that sign might not last. So
Plexiglass barrier.
Announcement sign instead of the one
Well,
we have
that's
to
why
go
I
put letters on.
corrections.
It's so when people drive by, they can read it and we don't have to go stick letters up in the freezing cold.
Yeah.
I wasn't joking before. One of the things I've heard a lot of people ask for is a dog park.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
That's a good point. Super. And I have something too about the lighting for the basketball court. Is that gonna be like on a timer or anything?
That is on that's
We
on
have
our
a problem.
agenda for this coming meeting next
Okay.
week. You're welcome to show up to that one too.
What is that?
Next Wednesday at 7 o'clock.
Right here. It does like illuminate like my entire backyard. It lights up your house like. I feel bad. It shines right in your window.
Timer on that is quite old and it has been manipulated numerous times.
Yeah.
And we are in the process of trying.
Is that the same timer as the parking lot lights here, or is it a separate
No,
timer?
it's different.
Okay.
So if we do the garage into like an office space, would a timer be able to go in there?
Imagine you can do anything.
Yeah.
If you have this, you can do anything.
Anything digitally programmable rather than,
Anything.
this has mechanical gears and no one knows how they work.
I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, but the reason why it's like that is because people keep breaking the locks on that electrical panel.
Because it's
And they
out
keep
there.
messing with it and poor James is out there
Yeah.
trying to save himself too. He's got a little baby.
Yeah. Oh, I know. That shines bright in your windows. That's a brutal.
I've driven by there at 6 o'clock in the morning and it's on and I'm like,
I'd like to offer a perspective from the Elderly Commission. Unfortunately, 2 of our meetings were preempted by holidays, which we didn't realize. So we finally met last couple of weeks ago. And I know you're going to find elderly out there. I hate that word. Let's change it to seniors. Seniors out there on the pickleball courts, on the hiking trails, and various other things. I'm sure you're not going to find them on the biking court. But you will find them. And Diana had sent out a questionnaire and received back quite a robust response.
40% return.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I would love to have those responses to incorporate what we can, so if you could.
Well, I'll create a summary after April 1st, and once the selectmen have it, then they can disperse
Yeah, I
it.
can get it
however.
to you.
And another thing I'd like to mention is, to the left of the, existing recreation field. I understand there's quite a wet spot over there. And
Oh, where the 5 to 12 playground is.
oh, is that where it is?
Up top.
And it
Yeah.
happens quite often when it rains heavy. And my thought was to put in a rain garden, which would filter the runoff from the road before it hits the river and is there a pond over there?
Yeah.
And you could incorporate master gardeners. Besides knowing all the dirt, they work for free. So, and would be willing to donate some of the plants that they have in their own yards, I'm sure. And so it would be pretty low cost, but it would take care of an area that's, I guess, fills up with rain quite often.
And that is one of those topics we will need to get into details as far as if we're proposing additional impervious areas, then stormwater quality. Those kind of things with that conversation. So, some stormwater treatment, low main gardens, things like that, that'll be part of that final plan. So how we're going to mitigate that runoff. So.
So, like going to the pickleball and baseball, why would you need them why would you need them close to the school if there's no hoops? Like you can put the pickleball over by the inside of the track. Plus that would probably solve the noise problem for Gate Street.
For the pickleball, also that, you have to keep your side windows closed.
It's closer to Jim.
He's getting screwed.
Sorry. No, it's a good idea.
All right.
Gotta vote.
Veto.
So with that being said, I think reading the room, I think you've heard enough from us. We've heard a lot from you. So moving this forward, again, understanding that the committee meetings are open. We'd love to see a lot of familiar faces next time we're in front of that meeting, in front of that committee. So with that, I think Nicole and I can, ride off into the sunset this evening, let you get back to the other business that you have as far as the selectmen are concerned this evening. But thank you all very, very much for this.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
See us again.
And if you haven't signed in, we're just keeping track of residents.
Tracy, when is the next meeting?
Should be around the. Oh, wow.
14th.
But we had to move it, so we bumped it back to the end of the month.
In April. I don't remember. It'll be posted on Facebook or website. I don't think we had to move the April one. It was this one we couldn't have because they had a meeting. Yeah.
Oh, you do. Okay. 18th.
Yeah.